If it hadn't been for Cotton Eye Joe, I'd been married a long time ago. Where did you come from? Where did you go? Where did you come from, Cotton Eye Joe? If it hadn't been for Cotton Eye Joe, I'd been married a long time ago. Where did you come from? Where did you go? Where did you come from, Cotton Eye Joe? From Cotton Eye Joe.
Okay, welcome to the Opperman Report. I am your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman. You can find me at Opperman Investigations and Digital Forensic Consulting if you reach out to me through my email, oppermaninvestigations@gmail.com. Now, otherwise, if you need to check us out, it's oppermanreport@gmail.com if you want to contact us about the radio show, or you go to oppermanreport.com to send one of the little forms, that contact form. You can use that. So try and keep that separate. If you need PI work, Opperman Investigations. You need radio stuff, Opperman Reports. Okay? It's simple. I don't ask for much, do I? I should have asked Santa for that. I said, Santa, have them email the right place, please. Ho, ho, ho. You got it, Ed. Santa's the only one that loves me. Only one left. Anyway, otherwise, check us out on Patreon, the Opperman Report Patreon. Taped some new stuff there this week. This woman wrote a book about the Oklahoma City bombing called Blowback. Let me see if I can pull it up real fast. I can be honest with you. Do not recall the name. Okay. But all kind of stuff up there. We're kind of slim this week. Margaret Roberts, Blowback, the untold story of the FBI and the Oklahoma City bombing. It's Christmas week. It's tough to get guests, so we didn't tape so much new stuff this week. But coming up tonight, I got 3 hours of brand new content for you. Our live show, 1 hour, which I'm doing for you right now. Then an hour with Tony Mayo, one of the original Guardian Angels, the Magnificent 13 Guardian Angels, way, way, way back from when Curtis Lee was the manager of that McDonald's. and had the McDonald's crew out there picking up garbage and patrolling the subway and trying to bait people into mugging them, and they could beat the crap out of them. And back those days, he talks about some of the shenanigans with Curtis Lewitt too. That pulled back in those days, back at where the cops would come in and saying, "Hey man, we know you're making false police reports. We know you. So, you're not going to find this guest anywhere else, by the way." Okay, I track him down. I tracked you down. That's a good story. Danny Lee Williams, the forgotten son. The world made me do it. Danny Lee Williams claims to be the son of Bill Clinton, the undocumented son. Wait, they don't use the word illegitimate anymore. I guess I don't have almost every kid now has no. Is that a wedlock? But they claim that he's the unrecognized son of Bill Clinton, President Bill Clinton. Danny Lee Williams. Been trying to book this guy for 10 years, man. I finally get him on the show. Then Ian Totten comes on again. Matamoros, Mexico cult killings. Okay, no, that's a good story. Ian Totten has done the best reporting on that story I have heard to date. And I go back to Mexico. I was back and forth going across that border back in the days when this thing was going on. So I saw the local reporting. I heard the local gossip between the local smugglers and stuff like that. And Ian Totten really comes together with some good information. I'm very, very proud of my friend there, Ian Totten. Great work, Ian. So that's it. Those are the 3 shows tonight. I'm going to give you for free. And then I'm doing a live show for you right now. So it's going to be almost 4 hours of content. That's a little Christmas bonus for the audience there that I love so much. And then there is some new content, but I can't recall all of it. You know what I mean? It's a rough week. I'm busy. Vic's in town visiting. So I'm taping this at 8 o'clock in the morning. So there could, I got to whisper. I got to keep it down. I can't, like my normal ranting and raving. Because, she's in town. We got a lot of stuff planned, things we want to go visit, old time steak, stuff like that. She's here for Christmas. And we're having a great, great, great visit. It's been one of the happiest Christmases I've had in years. So as far as all that goes, I think I just messed up something with the mic, with the audio. I hope I didn't screw it up. I think I did. It sounds funny now. Testing. Okay. The little meters are okay, but those meters mean crap. Let me tell you, they don't mean anything. Okay. Let's think. Let's start the show. Okay. We're only 7 minutes in. Why not get started? Okay. First, we had a huge release of Epstein files this week, and everyone has gone freaking crazy. They're losing their stuff, man. They're pooping their pants. They're pissing their pants. They're promoting all kind of nonsense and foolishness and craziness. Okay, so now when this happens, okay, you have no idea what it's like for good old Ed Opperman. The phone's ringing off the hook. I'm getting swarmed with emails and text messages and all over the place from all these. I'm going to be in next week's some AMI publication, Enquirer, Globe, something. I did a quote for them about Bill Clinton, about those pictures I saw back in June of 2016. I was told, I didn't see the pictures, I'm sorry. I was told about some pictures being shopped around of Trump on Epstein's plane with nude women, Clinton on Epstein's plane with nude women, and Epstein on Trump's plane, okay? Back and forth. And these were a package of pictures that were being shopped around as a package. But then someone bought them up and covered it up. And I was actually talking to one of the people I believe was involved in that cover-up, but he denies it. So, well, we'll just leave it at that. Anyway, so I'm doing a little quote about that, and also my role in obtaining the 24-page letter where Attorney Jerry Lefcourt says that Jeffrey Epstein helped create the Clinton Global Initiative, and this was used in his plea negotiations. So they requested I give them a copy of that too, because I'm the one that obtained that document way back. I was the first person to publish it. And then later on, I had it for sale up on my website for $1.99. So at that time, because I could see who was ordering, his Business Insider was ordering and stuff like that. All these publications were ordering it from my website. So if you saw it back then, they bought it from me. Now it's all over the place. Everybody has it, But back in those days, it was exclusive to the Opperman Report, OppermanReportArchives.com. Now it's everywhere. Okay. yeah, you have no idea. My phone starts ringing off the hook crazy and stuff like this when this kind of thing happens. And what comes up is my work on the Katie Johnson case. Katie Johnson was the 13-year-old kid that was raped by Trump and Epstein at Epstein's mansion in Manhattan. And she first filed this do-it-yourself lawsuit in California. It was a pro se lawsuit. It was full of errors. It got tossed out. Then she was retained attorney Tom Mayer from New Jersey, and he filed the Jane Doe lawsuit, which is the accurate lawsuit. That's the one you want to look at. You don't want to waste your time looking at this nonsense. And then I was retained as the private investigator in that case. And then later on, different attorneys came on. Cheney Mason and Lisa Bloom came on to support the case. So this comes up a lot. Okay, well, when all the Epstein attention is on, because people will accuse me of, well, why are you defending pedophiles? It was, look, I'm the one, I represented the plaintiff, Plus, I worked on other cases too in Palm Beach. I worked on 6 cases altogether, down in Palm Beach, 6 potential plaintiffs. And out of all my work on all this, there was only one that was a total hoax. And there was another one, too, that I just believe she's... a lot of times something did happen, some kind of trauma did happen, but then it does something to your mind, and you start imagining that you're connected to all this stuff. So there was an issue with one of those, too. One was a total hoax, drug addict. One was just, I believe, a little mental illness. And there was just something that we couldn't advance. There just wasn't enough meat there to advance the case. So my role has been vetting some of these cases, okay? So when people say to me, oh, well, you don't understand Katie Johnson, look at what the Daily Mail says. And I'll get sent this screenshot of the headline from the Daily Mail saying, she lied and she made it up and she was a drug addict and blah, blah, blah. But then if you actually go and find that article and read the article, they have a mystery witness. They didn't talk to the plaintiff in that case. They didn't talk to anybody that worked on that case. According to them, they have some mystery witness that says it was all made up. But they don't name who that witness is. If they've got a real person, a real witness, a real some of substance, show it to me. You can't show it to the investigator in the freaking case? You know what I mean? Show it to me. I'll take a look. If there's some meat there, I'll tell the world. I'll be the first one to say, oh, well, we have new information. Now we have to change our conclusions on this. But no, they don't. They have a mystery witness that's top secret. What is it? It's bull. It's crap. It's garbage. The other thing I get constantly, okay, and this is just wild. Well, Ed, what about Lebow? Okay, I think his name is Norm Lebow. And I see it spelled sometimes Lebow and then other times Lubow. So I don't know what it is, okay? What about Lebow? And then I'll hear this story, and they usually show a screenshot of somebody else's post somewhere saying that, well, he worked for Jerry Springer, and he was pretending to be Katie Johnson and texting reporters and trying to sell a story. And he was involved in this first pro se litigation in California. And so he was the mastermind behind this whole thing, Ed. He was? Okay. First of all, in all of my personal, direct, real-life involvement in this, never met Lebow. Never. No one involved in any of this has ever mentioned Lebow to me. Or discussed Lebow, or even explained who Lebow was, or how he, just only the only time I heard about Lebow was on Reddit and Twitter. That's it. That's the only connection that Lebow has to the Jane Doe lawsuit against Trump and Epstein. That's it. The rest is 100% garbage fantasy. Now, but let's be the complete devil's advocate, which, by the way, as a professional investigator, this is one of the things I do. You do play devil's advocate. I think, okay, well, if I'm working for the defense, how would I use this Lebow? The Lebow defense. How would I use the Lebow defense? That, well, Lebow made up the whole thing and was like Lebow had money to pay people up there. There was no money in this case, by the way. There was no funding with this whatsoever. It was peanuts. It was, people would laugh the amount of grief I got over this case and what I got paid for it. But what do you call it? So let's say I'm working for the defense. Let's say I strip myself of all my dignity, self-respect, morals, ethics, and now I'm working to defend a notorious pedophile, Jeffrey Epstein, and his best friend, Donald Trump, okay, who was an adjudicated rapist in a civil lawsuit. Okay, plus it's all guilty of 34 felonies and all kind of crimes. So let's say I surrender all of my dignity, my self-respect, my morals, my ethics, and now I'm going to go work for this garbage, right? And my defense is there's a guy called Lebow. That's the Lebow defense. Lebow did it. Okay? They got that defense. Some other guy did it. Some other dude did it. SODIT. Some other dude did it. But in this case, it's Lebow is in charge of the whole thing. Le Pew. Remember Pepe Le Pew with the skunk there that was disguised as a cat? Or vice versa, maybe. He was kissing that cat, but and then it became a big scandal. You're not allowed to kiss anymore. What do you call it? How would I, as the defense, let's say I'm the criminal defense investigator in this case. The majority of my life have been a criminal defense investigator, okay, except for plaintiffs in civil lawsuits. How would I defend this case? How would I bring in this Lebow theory into court? Bring in subpoena Lebow? Mr. Lebow, confess on the stand. That's not going to happen, right? Is there do they have another witness that has testified that Lebow had some connection to this? How would you bring this in? And I know that in the minds, the fantasies of the world in people's heads, who spend their time all day long, they don't really leave their house much, and they watch the Lifetime movie channel, and they think this is how this kind of stuff works. The same people that right away, every little bit of evidence is hearsay, that's hearsay. They don't know what hearsay means or what it has to do with. But right away, everything's hearsay. You see that guy, I don't know, move on. How are we going to bring Lebow in? And people have this fantasy in their head that the defense attorney is just going to look at the judge and say, Your Honor, this whole case was brought about by Lebow. Like the attorney is going to testify. And then the judge is going to say, plaintiff's attorney, is that true? And then the plaintiff's attorney say, Yes, Your Honor, it's true. We're sorry. But, guys, the problem is with people who question that one little lawsuit. Out of the hundreds and thousands probably I've been involved in my life. Majority of them at this point, very similar to this case here, where you have someone who was a victim of sexual battery as a teen or a child, and you're looking for, and they come to you, they say, it happened to me, but I'll never be able to prove it. And you say, well, no, let's talk about this. Did you ever tell anybody about this? Well, yeah, I told my best friend, but I'll never be able to find her. I told a teacher. Oh, you know what? I told a doctor, too. I told a psychologist when I was in high school. I went to see a therapist, and I told about my bulimia, and I told her about it. And then it's the investigator's job to go track these people down, right? But I said, well, you'll never be able to find them. Or even, my little next-door neighbor was only 13. I remember her name, but I've Googled her name. I could never find her, And then you find the property records, you find out who owned the property. You do, especially if you have you're working for a big law firm. You get LexisNexis, Accurate, DocuSearch, TLO, Locate Plus. You get reports on everybody in that house: property reports, employment reports, credit reports. You can go to hell, man. You go. Let's do this, man. There's a lot of money on the line here. We had a case against a big rock star. That would have been like a $20 million case. So you run reports on everybody. Where did they work? Let's talk to their coworkers until you find that witness. And you find a witness. You call them up and say, hey, do you remember your neighbor? Yeah, I remember my neighbor. Do you remember her ever complaining to you about being a sexual battery? No, I don't. Yes, I do remember. We were in the treehouse one day and she told me. And this is how these things play out. Okay? It's not some Jerry Springer producer who says, well, I'm gonna get a witness to lie. You know what I mean? There's foundations for how you find these witnesses and how they come about and how these things exist. And then usually, too, this diagnoses of PTSD that come later on. And that's all. That's not going to be in the initial complaint. It says, well, I read the whole lawsuit. You'll have that in the case summary when you're showing it to an attorney. If it had been me, if Katie Johnson had come to me originally and says, hey, and I says, well, let me find you an attorney, I would write up her case and then show that case summary up, with a lot more information that's going to be in the complaint. You show that to the different attorneys. Say, would you be interested in this case? Blah blah blah. And what is your theory? How would you file this complaint? Who would you go after? Would you just go after Epstein or Trump? Would you go after Mar-a-Lago too? Would you go after the Trump organization too? Because I have a lot of experience in this kind of stuff. And by the way, people says, well, oh, Ed, you're just some naive guy, a radio host, and that's why they picked you to do this, to investigate, quote unquote. No, dude, man, I've been involved in congressional investigations. I'm death penalty qualified. I testified in a death penalty case in Mingo, West Virginia. Congressional investigations against the U.S. Secret Service, cases against Disney. I don't want to start mentioning names, but a lot of celebrity cases too. Dude. Criminal defense against 45 years, guys. Organized crime cases, some of the biggest organized crime cases in history. It beats the connection. The commission trial, Carmine Persco. So to come back and say, well, he doesn't know. Wienergate. I did forensics in Wienergate, Tiger Woods. All this stuff, man. So this idea that somehow some Twitter guy has more experience in litigation, and explaining to me what my job is and what my role in all this was, and somehow this Lebow character has any significance to any of this is the most ridiculous thing. In fact, in my previous telling of this story, I've never even thought to bring up Lebow or mention Lebow. And in other cases, too, other high-profile cases like this that I've been involved in, Stormy Daniels, Charlie Sheen, Tiger Woods, George Zimmerman, I was involved in that. And these different cases, too, you have these weird peripheral people who try to insert themselves in the cases. That's not unusual at all, okay? And no one complains about them. No one brings up and says, well, Disney's innocent because some weirdo got involved, or even the other case. There's other cases, other Epstein cases, especially down in Florida, where the majority of the plaintiffs were little kids from the trailer parks and little kids from Royal Palms High School. First, they were preyed upon by Epstein and his network. The Epstein network. People love to say this network thing. But first they were preyed upon by Epstein and his assistants, and co-defendants. But then later on, when the lawsuit business, which is a cottage industry, man, basically how it works is you find a plaintiff, and you work out a deal with the attorneys where you get paid a consulting fee, or you get hired as an investigator later on. You get paid. There's money in this. There's a big settlement coming, and there's a lot of money. And there was a lot of shady characters down there in Palm Beach preying on these young ladies. We're now adult women, but in Palm Beach and the trailer parks that come out of those trailer parks, where the majority of victims were, they weren't being flown to islands and all over the world. Man, they were 10 minutes, 15 minutes away. They were being brought over by cabs, or getting rides from their cousin in their cousin's pickup truck. If you read these the available grand jury transcripts and this YouTube videos of some interviews with these young kids, at the time they were young, you could find on YouTube. But there's been other characters, just like Lebow, weird characters, shady guys, and dealers, and wheeler dealers, and fixers, and operators who try and insert themselves, and they see a buck at the end of the rainbow, and they think they can insert themselves in this stuff, and they usually fail, just like Lebow did. No one's saying throw out all those lawsuits that were settled. And another thing too that I want to say is that this would have been settled had the plaintiff in this case approached a professional to begin with, okay, and rather than file this pro se lawsuit in California. This would have been settled just like all the other ones. The only reason it wasn't is because it was filed and then it was published and it may hit the news, and now they can't settle because what's the big motive of settling is you want to quietly settle. You don't want it in the news. Well, you gave away your biggest chip there, you know. So there's all of that as far as Lebow, goes and all that nonsense. But let's get back, and I just want to put that first out because I'm going to use that as a reply now. When people start bringing up Lebow to me, that's going to be my reply. Okay, Lebow is nonsense. It's foolishness, and only someone who is totally naive and foolish and has a Lifetime movie channel view of the world and how these kind of lawsuits work would think that Lebow is significant in any possible way. He's not. Sorry. And as far as Daily Mail goes, if they got a witness, produce the witness. Okay, well, I'm in public. Okay, what do you think? I don't catch hell over this, man? Of course I do. God, the problems I've had in my life over this nonsense. It's not nonsense. The real work of these cases of representing and advocating for these victims is it's rewarding work, for the most part. It's difficult. A lot of these survivors, they're traumatized, they got a lot of problems in their life, and they're hard to deal with. I'm not always the most easiest guy to get along with. Many times I lose patience or tolerance, but it is rewarding to get justice for these people in reality, but it's just all this Twitter world of experts on Twitter and all this nonsense. Which you know what? I'll start with that first. Okay, I'll start with that first. Okay, Maria Farmer, and her sister Annie Farmer. If you don't know their story, they were kidnapped by Lex Wexner, and held captive, and by Epstein and his bunch there. And she came early on. She made complaints to NYPD, to the FBI, and then later on, went public with her stuff, different attempts at lawsuits here and there. And there was, for some reason, and she did an early interview too. Early on, someone launched somebody to fame and stardom. Okay, some investigators and researchers. Okay. And then they had a falling out, whatever. I don't know what. Okay, I don't care. The thing is now, is this woman who was very close to Hoffenberg. At one time, me and her were very close too. We had a very good friendship. We used to talk on the phone. What do you call it? Came under vicious attack by these legendary experts all over Twitter and Reddit. Well, I'm an expert on this case, and let me look into this and examine this and give you what my opinion is. I don't believe it. All this nonsense, right? Okay, fine. Let's say your motives are sincere, okay? And you looked at her story and whatever, you hasn't got a problem with it. Okay, fine. There was no excuse for the constant harassment and torture that went on, and even to the point of people inserting themselves into her personal life, into her home, okay, which I think is public knowledge. But the thing is, man, is that here we are now. In this latest release, it comes out some stuff that she accused about selling child pornography, nude pictures of her and threats that she was talking about has come out now and been 100% verified in this FBI document release. By the way, too, she has a lawsuit currently against the FBI over this very issue. So now they're releasing information for against their own interests. So now we know, okay, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that any doubt, suspicion you may have had about her story and her reliability and her credibility was incorrect. You made a mistake. I make mistakes. When I make a mistake, I'm the first one to say, hey, man, but remember I told you about that thing? I found out something new, and now here's what I think. Okay? There's nothing to be ashamed of, okay? When you're researching something, if you really want to be a researcher, you want to be a researcher, an investigator, if you really want to be this, what I do for a living for 45 years, man, okay? There's no bullshit in real life, reality, not Twitter, not Reddit. If you really want to do this, you follow the facts and you go to where the facts lead you. Not where you want them to go, not if you have a grudge against somebody, not, none of that. No, your political views, your political opinions. You follow the facts where they take you. They take you to a certain point, you come to a conclusion, you report back those facts. If new facts come to your attention, now it's time to modify your report. What's wrong with that? It's not a failure. That's it. You're following the facts. I got new facts, guys. We all got new facts this week. Maria Farmer was right. She was telling the truth. Okay? Joke's over. Where's the apologies? Where is the new? Where are all these people? How many people I blocked and unfriended because of the shit they were dumping on that woman, okay, who's been through enough bullshit to begin with. I got company in the house. I shouldn't be screaming like this. But the thing is, they've been through enough. And then they get all this grief from people that are allegedly advocates, anti-Epstein people. When I got to tell you, man, I don't think they are. All right, we can get into a whole thing there. I've talked about this, man. Some of these people, man, I don't trust them at all. Or their motives, or what they're up to, or who's behind them. Okay? But, okay, fine. If we're all honest and everything, all our hands are on the table, where are the apologies? Where are the apologies? If I got to make any apology to Maria Farmer, okay, I'm sorry that I got a little impatient with you and hung up the phone. Okay, but I never doubted her sincerity. I never doubted her honesty. I never doubted her credibility. Neither did Hoffenberg. Okay, all right. Otherwise, it's just I hang up on a lot of people. Okay, all right. And other than that, I'm not getting into anything more personal about that. It's a total personal thing. Yeah. But anyway, moving on. Where's the apology for Maria Farmer? It should be coming. Okay. Now, let me see how we're doing on time because there's so much I want to say here. Okay. We're doing pretty good. We got Lebow out of the way. And then Maria Farmer. Oh, by the way, too, speaking of Maria Farmer, Stephen Hoffenberg. Okay. Now, I've hinted around and I've said to you over and over and over again, Stephen Hoffenberg, man, they would erect a statue to this man if people knew he was the driving force behind so much of this. Like a dog with one of those pig's ears, when they start growling at you, give your dog a pig's ear as a gift, and then they turn on you, they eat your arm off. You try to take that pig's ear, you get too close to it. It's that crack for dogs. But Stephen Hoffenberg, man, I said over and over, they would erect a statue to this man if people only knew his real driving force behind all this, especially in the U.S. Virgin Islands. And I've hinted around about his involvement in U.S. Virgin Islands, and I've hinted around about my involvement in U.S. Virgin Islands too. I've kind of talked. You can find it I don't know how, by the way, because I really haven't really come out and talked about it. I haven't violated any agreements there. Can't I? Okay, but what do you call it? You go to ChatGPT and Grok and all that stuff. They know about me in the Virgin Islands. I don't know. They talk about me working on cases down there. So I don't know how they know that. I don't think I've ever said it out loud. But I know there's a lot of gossip and talk goes on behind the scenes. But what do you call it? So anyway, it came out this week in these new documents. Stephen Hoffenberg and his involvement in his stuff with the case against J.P. Morgan Chase and the U.S. Virgin Islands. They used his information in that lawsuit, and I was involved in that too. Okay, so that's a whole nother thing too that came out from all this. 1 second. Someone knocking at the door. Okay, I'm back. I have company staying here, so maybe I shouldn't be screaming into the microphone at 8 o'clock in the morning. Okay, what do you call it? So I was talking about the Hoffenberg and his involvement in J.P. Morgan and U.S. Virgin Islands. We had never talked about that before. But, if you look at these documents, the stuff that just came out, there's a lot of stuff that I told you about 6 years ago. There's stuff in there about Trump and the USA beauty pageants. And sex trafficking going on at the beauty pageants. David Copperfield. I was the first person to talk about David Copperfield because, guys, and I go into the whole thing about how his case, he had that big lawsuit And the woman who was suing him gave this very detailed story about going to his island. And he had this whole little form he would have people in the audience fill out. And then we'd tell them, I'll give you modeling jobs. And if he had this perversion, too, he would try to steal them away from their boyfriends. So if there was a couple, he would definitely go after the girl. And then the woman who went after him, I think she was set up in another attempted rape or another sabotage in a Las Vegas hotel room. But there was another case in Nevada that's not spoken about, that's not public, that I know about, that was, the only reason it wasn't pursued and continued is it was beyond the statute of limitations, okay? But right up up this alley, this type of case, okay? So I've been telling you about Copperfield. Go back in my archives. You can find Copperfield 6 years ago. David Blaine, I was talking about 6 years ago. We had Mark Ebner come on the show and tell us all about David Blaine. So a lot of the stuff you're seeing is 6 years old. I've been telling you Mirror Farm is legit. One from Hoffenberg in 2019 we were talking about this. We were right about that. So over and over and over, all this stuff. I've been telling you about Hoffenberg's involvement in U.S. Virgin Islands. That came out this week. So there's a lot of stuff that you could have gotten if you listen to me and you pay attention, okay? And you send in your donations and you retweet and you share and you do it like a good little listener is supposed to do. This stuff would have been out and more in public already, okay? And we wouldn't have people bringing up all this nonsense about Lebow and Daily Mail and all this crap. This stuff would be common knowledge now. I believe, before this year is over, the whole Katie Johnson thing is going to blow up, and as people are going to realize how accurate in reality this stuff was. Anyway, all of that. But what do we need to be concerned about? Okay, we can't be sloppy. We can't be naive. We can't be working on grudges, or we can't be, working on personal motivations or ego and self-satisfaction and gratification. Got to follow the facts, absorb the facts, observe, and report. Okay? A lot of stuff came out this week. There's a story about a limo driver, and he tells a story about his friend's daughter who was raped by Trump. And then she was shot in the head. They think it was a cartel. Blah, blah, blah. Okay? And everyone's posting this thing, this screenshot, all over the place. The problem is they're only posting the screenshot of the first page. Okay? You go to the second page of this report this fellow made. This limo driver. He's talking about Hillary Clinton being drunk and Terry Nichols working security at the door, and Hillary Clinton was drunk and couldn't get in, and Oklahoma City bombing, John Doe number 2. There's a lot of crazy stuff in there. I just had a guest on about Oklahoma City bombing, so I ran this by her. I said, "Hey, what do you think of all this crazy stuff?" And there's also an attorney called Tribideau, I believe his name is. Jesse Tribideau, who's the attorney whose brother was killed in prison. She ran it by him. Incredible guy. He's an attorney. He's only an attorney. He's not a Twitter. He's not an anonymous Twitter expert or a anonymous Reddit person. He's just an attorney involved in all this in real life. Who won his settlement, I think. But what do you call it? So there's a page 2 to this they're not showing you. Just like with the Katie Johnson case, they show you the Katie Johnson screenshot of that. They don't show you the actual complaint, the Jane Doe complaint, with the actual witness statements, with the actual witness affidavits. They want you to see this. They don't want you to see the whole thing. Now, another thing to remember about these reports we're seeing is many of them are online reports. Someone went to the FBI.gov website and they placed an anonymous or a tip on there. So these aren't actual investigations. These aren't actual cases. They're showing you the intake FBI tip line about this story from the limo with the girl with the shot in the head with the Oklahoma City bombing on the second page. So when you see something like that, first you have to take it with a grain of salt. Well, this is just anybody can fill out. I can go to the FBI Gov site right now and fill out whatever I want. That I saw Bill Clinton on with an alien. I saw Donald Trump swimming with sharks. You can say all these things. You can say whatever you want on there. Okay. And so we can't go crazy and say, look at this. It was just released by the FBI. Well, look, this is what happened. That's not what happened. That's what somebody went to a website and filled out a form. And then the guy went on to fill out a form about the John Doe number 2 and Oklahoma City bombing and Hillary Clinton being drunk. Okay, maybe that's true. But we can't just jump and say it is true. Okay, first glance, it seems pretty thin, pretty weak, kind of crazy. Okay, let's face it. Okay. Now, there's another one out there that talks about she was taken to Virgin Islands. Okay, now I don't know if we're talking about Little St. James, Great St. James, or we're talking about St. Thomas Virgin Islands, where he did have a couple of offices. Okay, and I was always told that these offices were dusty, unused offices. Okay, that's what I was told. Now I'm hearing stuff too that they were never searched, and I don't know. Okay, and we're hearing this woman, she again went to that website and she left. It says, and I was taken underground where they had stalls, like horse stalls, and I was kept in a stall. And Epstein would come by and look at me like I was a horse or an animal. And people see this and they're sharing this all over the place. Look at this, underground stalls. Well, first of all, again, this is something that I looked into in the Virgin Islands. I'm telling you, when I worked on cases in the Virgin Islands and would talk to people who also investigated, worked on cases, prosecuted cases, litigated cases down in the Virgin Islands, people that were directly involved in all this. Okay, well, another thing I brought up was, are there any basements? Is there any underground stuff? You hear about basements and stuff. Is there anything like that? Because that's one of the online things. I deal with a lot of online crazy stories and conspiracy theories, and a lot of them sound so foolish to me. First of all, the idea of basements on any island, the water table is so high that it's very rare to have basements in Florida or, in places, like this, So the whole idea of a basement to begin with is a huge undertaking. It's very, underwater facilities and underground facilities, it's pretty bogus and nonsense. But it doesn't pass the smell test to start with, And then when I ask people directly involved who've been on these islands, who stepped foot in these offices, were there any underground bases, any basements, anything like that? No, nothing. Okay. And here we have this woman claiming that there's stalls, horse stalls. Well, how did she escape? How did she get out of that horse stall to make it to a computer to tell the FBI? So we have to look at these things with a grain of salt. And this is not coming from someone like this guy, Michael Tracy, who's making excuses for everything. This is coming from a guy who works for the plaintiffs. We got to be sober. We got to be rational. These are online tips that have wild allegations. When you have this kind of extreme allegations, you need some shred of proof, some shred of evidence, some shred of corroboration. You need something, before you go pluck up this low-hanging fruit and start running with it all over town. Okay? So there's those two. The third one was about there's Lake Michigan. A 13-year-old was raped, and then they killed her baby. Again, an online form, which is very interesting. Now, there's a couple other online forms that you don't hear talked about as much as these screenshots of the limo driver and the stalls and the Lake Michigan yacht and all this stuff. And it was one by Mark Epstein, Jeffrey Epstein's brother, who says, guess what? He did an online form too. And he said, I think my brother was killed by Donald Trump. You don't hear anybody talking about that one, do you? They're too busy talking about the limo driver, which is going to be discredited. Those stories are going to be washed. Trust me. I've been doing this a long time. I know how this stuff works. And we're going to be getting into that in a minute. You're going to know how it works too in a minute. Okay. The other one is, there was an inmate in MCC who says, hey, talk to my attorney. I got information. Now, he's not coming out there saying, oh, I saw this. He's saying, no, talk to my attorney. I got information. It has value. I want a deal. okay, which is a real people, attorneys, real stuff involved. Not limo driver, as I saw Terry Nichols in a costume. Okay, with a funny mask and I know it's okay. There's a difference. But what's all the publicity on? The crazy hysteria, low-hanging fruit. Not the serious stuff that's going to take some real serious work and investigation and hard reporting. How does this work? Okay. How does this work? There used to be a company, might still exist, called Info USA. And around the time of Bill Clinton, right after he was president, right? Which was around the 80s, 90s, right? Info USA was a mailing list company. They would sell mailing lists. And they hired Bill Clinton. I believe it was $1 million to give a speech there. And then all of their problems with the federal government, their crimes they were being accused of, went away. And when you look it up, I can only find of a payment of $125,000, but I believe he was paid $1 million at one point. But he was like on their board of directors and advisor. He was paid by these criminals. Info USA. One of the things Info USA had was a list of phone numbers of people with dementia and Alzheimer's. And they would sell that list. Now, who would want a list? Well, I have Alzheimer's medicine that I want to sell to these people. Maybe. Okay. Or you have con artists, professional scam artists, who want a list of phone numbers of people with diminished capacity that they could call up and con and scam them for money. That's who was buying that list. You got a list of victims. A suckers list. You want suckers? Come to me. I'm going to sell you suckers. And this went on. I think it still goes on. I think my dad's on that list. He got some crazy calls. Okay. All right. So then, all these con artists, these scam artists, these predators, they're calling up, they scam these people for their life savings. Or the majority of their life savings. They got a little bit of money left. And then what do? Well, we harvested as much as we could from this field of suckers. They're not going to fall for the same game twice. But we still got their numbers, and there's still some fruit on those trees. So what are we going to do? We're going to go back. Going to go back to that well. I'm mixing metaphors like crazy. Fields, fruit, trees, and wells. But we're going to go back to that well. And this time, we're going to call them up and say, hey, we're here to help you. We heard you got scammed, Mr. Sucker. Is that true? Did someone call you up and talk you out of some money? Well, we work for this law firm here, and we're going to get you your money back. All you got to do is give us your credit card number. We're going to get that money back for you. Okay, you get it? You get it? Why am I bringing up this story to you? I told you the last couple of weeks I've been screaming from the rafters that the people of the estate, the Jeffrey Epstein estate, who released that first batch of emails and the pictures from the birthday book and all that stuff, are Epstein's co-defendants, Darren Endyke and Richard Kahn. Darren Endyke today works for a MAGA law firm. He represents Pete Hegseth. And by the way, everybody in that law firm is following me now. They're following me on social media all over the place. I got them up my ass. Okay? This is what happens when you do this stuff in real life, and you really, there's consequences for doing this. If you're really out here doing this for real, and you're really out here exposing people and doing all, and then you're legit, there's a lot of consequences, a lot of bullshit you got to put up with, okay? I see these other people, they're just dancing around, ha, 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 ha. Oh, big smiles on their faces, big, goofy, stupid smiles. They got open investigations into their lives, and they seem they're a damn bit worried about, you know? Right? But when you're really doing this for real, okay, there's problems. You have problems come up, and trust me, all the time. Sometimes by these same people, okay? They're the experts, the legendary experts. And their crew and their bunch. Where you got Darren Endyke, Richard Kahn, Epstein co-defendants. They ripped off the trust. They ripped off the U.S. Virgin Islands for $80 million in tax break deal, right? And now, after all that, they come back, Info USA, back to the well. This time, we're here to help you. Trust us. Look, we're going to release all this secret information. This top. We're here to help you. And there's people out there arguing with me. They're heroes. They should be applauded. Maybe they did something bad in the past, Ed, but now they're releasing information. Once again, people who live their life through this filter of the Lifetime movie channel, they want a happy ending and all this. They think that, oh, Ed, they've turned around a new leaf, and now they're doing good. And this should be, we're getting information, Ed. We should be, this is so exciting. We're winning. Yay. We trust the victims, believe the victims. Ooh, now everything's great. No, you're not, man. You're on that second suckers list. Falling for that. The guys who just ripped you off, just committed all these crimes, are coming back now, feeding you a little bit of information. You think they're your friend now. Okay? That's the difference between you and me. Mr. Trump's Defense Department right now, which is unbelievable with the sloppiness and all this. They can't even redact this stuff correctly. And it turns out, too, that the reason why they couldn't redact it correctly, because you can put it through Microsoft Word or something like that and unredact it. It's just a joke. It's because Doge made them sell their subscription to Acrobat or Adobe or something. And this is just unbelievable. It's insane, you know. And then you have the White House took over the Department of Justice Twitter account. And they're calling reporters, you dope. We were forced to release those documents, you dope. So it's just like chaos and childishness and amateurs all over the joint, right? But they are professional con men. They know what they're doing. When they see a sucker, they know what to do. Instinctively, they know what to do. It's in their blood. They can't help it. So what happens is, man, they're here to help you now. Okay. And now they're feeding you all this stuff. And what they're feeding you is the low-hanging fruit. The juicy stuff is what? It's Lake Michigan, it's limo drivers, it's stalls and underground basements. And what they're going to do, trust me on this, watch and listen. I'm only right every freaking time for 6 years ahead of everybody else. Go back and listen to my old shows. I was talking about Epstein in 2013. Nobody knew the name. The superstars showed up in 2016, 2018, 2019. Okay? They're releasing this stuff. These online tips about limo drivers and stalls and Lake Michigan, okay? Because what they're going to do is they're going to come back in the next batch and say, oh, we investigated all that stuff. And Russia, it all turned out to be a hoax. And look at the Democrats running with it when they should have known it was all fake. This is what's going to happen, ladies and gentlemen. Trust me on this. Trust the guy that's been around. Okay? Trust that, I do this for a living. I've seen Trump do this before with Pissgate. I've seen it before. Okay? What they're doing with the Katie Johnson and Lebow and the Daily Mail and all that crap. Okay, this is what they do. They know what they're doing. Just like Info USA knew to make a list of suckers, and then they knew how to go back and get a second bite at that apple, a third, a fourth mixed metaphor. Okay? If you want mixed metaphors, I'm the man for you. All right, guys, we are out of time. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year, guys. I love you all so much. You have no idea. I'm having a great week. I'm having so much fun. My daughter's back in town. We're hitting all our old haunts and stomping grounds and closing down bars and getting into bar fights and all the old stuff that we used to do, me and my little monkey. Coming up after this, 3 good shows. Ian Totten about the Matamoros satanic cult down there in Mexico, the drug smuggling cult. Mr. I think it's Tony Maya about the Curtis Sliwa and those shenanigans. Let me see. It might be Tony Mayo. Tony Mayo. I'm sorry, Mr. Tony Mayo. Great guy, too. Really nice. That guy has great stories. And then we have Danny Williams, the young man who claims that his father was Bill Clinton. So 3 hours, close to 3 hours. I think Danny Williams, we might have cut that one a bit short. Okay. Might have to hit the old snooze button on that one. Okay. But otherwise, we had all great content for you. And check us out. New Year coming up. New Year, new me. I'm down almost 40 pounds, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, my health is back in action. I'm feeling ripped and raring to go. All my stuff, coming out in these files. I'm very convinced my name will be in these files before the end is done. Okay, I won't be able to search my name and find it in there. And if they're spelling it correctly, that could be a thing too. I should look up private investigator, see if that comes up, because otherwise, there's just way too much stuff that I'm directly involved in coming out in these files for me not to be in there. So let's see what happens, and then let's see all my detractors making up an excuse for that. You got to take what it says with a grain of salt. Just because he's in those Epstein files, he probably put himself in there. He hired someone to Photoshop his name in there. All right, guys. Good night. We're out of here.
It was Christmas Eve, babe, in the drunk tank. An old man said to me, won't see another one. And then he sang a song, the rare old mountain dew. I turned my face away and dreamed about you. Got on a lucky one, came in 18 to 1. I've got a feeling this year's for me and you. So happy Christmas, I love you, baby. I can see a better time when all our dreams come true.
They got cars big as bars, they got rivers of gold, but the windows right through you, it's no place for the old. When you first took my hand on a cold Christmas Eve, you promised me Broadway was waiting for me. You were handsome,
You were pretty queen of New York City. When the band finished playing, they held out for more.
Sinatra was swinging, all the drunks they were singing. We kissed on the corner, then danced through the night. The boys of the NYPD choir were singing, go away, babe. And the bells were ringing out for Christmas Day. You're a bum, you're a punk,
You're an old slut and junk lying there almost dead on a dripping that bed.
you scumbag, you maggot, you cheap, lousy faggot. Happy Christmas, you're ours, I pray God it's our love.
The boys of the NYPD choir still singing, go away, babe. And the bells are ringing out for Christmas Day. I could have been someone.
Well, so could anyone. You took my dreams from me when I first found you.
I kept them with me, babe. I put them with my own. Can't make it all alone. I built my dreams around you. The boys of the NYPD choir still singing, go away, babe. And the bells are ringing out for Christmas Day.